Hi guys, this is the full version of the Obergefell video, but I would like to start by saying congratulations to Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. Um, Today she was finally admitted to the Supreme Court. She is now officially an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, and let's be excited for her. We now have a Black woman on the Supreme Court for the first time in history. The third Black person to be on the Supreme Court. O'Connor, Ginsburg, Kagan, Sotomayor. The sixth woman to be on the Supreme Court too. So yay! I'm so excited for her. Now this is going to be the full version of the Hodges v. Obergefell case. It's gonna be quite long, so I did record and upload a short version if you would rather just watch that than listen to me talk for over an hour, because that's how long this video is going to be. Now let's get started. So first we are going to go over the arguments on the Obergefell side. So I'm just gonna go by bullet points. So first, they said that denying marriage leads to a stain of unworthiness, and there is a constitutional commitment to equal dignity. States have primacy over domestic relations, but must follow the Constitution, and Windsor was clear about that. It takes time to see humanity in others. 14th Amendment notion made a commitment to equality. They asked, do gay people share the same liberty as straight people? The place of gay people has been contested for decades. Statutes have made gay people second-class citizens. States are accountable for exclusions. The question of the court is about individual liberty. And waiting and seeing what happens in states where it is legal is still denying marriage to same-sex couples. Next, sexual orientation does not impact children. And we are talking about government giving people the rights to marry, not clergy. Next, legalizing through the political process demeans gay couples in homophobic states. Gays and lesbians were validated by Lawrence. Justifications for oppressing gays and lesbians don't hold up. Marriage is an emotional bond. Gay parents are not a problem to society, and gay parents adopting helps kids. Things have improved for gays and lesbians. However, marriage is the next step towards full equality. Gays and lesbians are people. Same-sex couples can marry with kids, without kids, at any age, just like straight people can. Next, people can make their own decisions regarding marriage. And same-sex couples can want kids, they might not want kids, who knows. For question 2, petitioners are already married and they have built lives together around their marriage. And there is a right to remain married, and the institution of marriage can use gender-neutral language for two consenting adults getting married. Language was an argument against same-sex marriage. So, yes. Next was Kentucky breaks up gay couples so they can go have kids with people of the opposite sex, which makes no sense to me, because like if you're gay, if you're a gay man, you don't want to procreate with a woman because you don't like women, Next, there was no justification for extinguishing existing marriages, and Windsor says that people have a right to stay married, and destroying marriage deprives children of stability. Next, we have the Hodges arguments. So first, the people should decide the definition of marriage. Marriage did not develop to deny dignity to others. And marriage is about kids and staying with kids, and gay marriage will ruin the purpose of marriage. Changing the definition delinks parents from children, and society is already delinking marriage and kids. People are getting together and having kids without getting married. Straight people who don't want kids end up having kids after marriage. 70-year-old men can have kids, and that should stay in the marriage. And so apparently 70-year-old women can't get married. I'll get to that when I get to Justice Ginsburg. The state doesn't care about love, the state only cares about kids. And Windsor allows for limiting marriage. States have interest in keeping kids with dads. Kids born out of wedlock has increased from 10% to 40% since the 70s. Changing the definition makes marriage about adults instead of kids. Changing the definition means more people having kids out of wedlock. Changing the idea of marriage will have negative impacts, and the state has no interest in bestowing dignity. Change through courts cuts off debate and democracy, and every SCOTUS couple case involved marriage and kids. This case forces state governments to give everyone rights and benefits. Now for question 2, I forgot to write down those points, but it basically said that it was about states' rights, and states have their own laws, and even outsiders should abide by those laws. Now next, I'm going to start with Justice Kennedy. Justice Kennedy was the swing vote, and you can tell because during oral arguments his position seemed to change when the sides changed. So first, when the Obergefell side was speaking, the traditional definition of marriage has been around for millennia plus time. Can the courts say that we know better than the people in the states? Society has always said man and woman, and he brings up some ancient societies. And maybe we should wait and see if social science approves of gay marriage. So basically see what happens in states where it's legal. We've learned a lot since Lawrence. Same-sex couples, no, they can't procreate, but they want the other attributes to show their dignity. They want the other attributes to show their dignity can be fulfilled, and they still have the ability to adopt. And adoption cuts into the argument that marriage is for procreation. The Hodges side is saying that same-sex couples cannot bond with a child. And the purpose of marriage is to bestow dignity, even though the other side said otherwise. Well, even though the Hodges side said otherwise. And for question 2, Kennedy says, why should fundamental rights change between states? So, that was Justice Kennedy. Next we have Justice Alito. Okay. So, for question 1, he says that there was no recognition of same-sex marriage prior to the late 1900s. And during the argument that the traditional definition has caused people to frown upon same-sex couples, he said that homosexuality was not frowned upon by some cultures, despite those cultures still not recognizing same-sex marriage. He also kind of implied that gay marriage leads to polygamous marriages. And we have never had gay marriage before. And then he kind of compares same-sex couples to incest couples. I don't remember the exact wording, so you are just going to have to read the transcripts. You can look that up on the Supreme Court website. Just scroll down to oral arguments and press audio. You can either do audio or transcripts, and then go to, I believe this was 2014, and then you can find Obergefell v. Hodges. So, next, in question 2, Alito compares same-sex marriage to pedophilia. Again, if you want the exact wording, just either read or listen to the oral arguments. And then he asks, what would come after recognizing same-sex marriage? Would it be like polygamous marriage, pedophilia? What would it be? And then he says that, is there a strong enough reason to limit marriage to opposite-sex couples, but weak enough to recognize same-sex marriages performed out of state? So that is Alito. Next, let's go to Kagan. Kagan said quite a bit, at least during question 1. And so first she says that religious leaders are still free to discriminate because of the free exercise clause of the First Amendment. So say I'm a preacher and I oppose same-sex marriage, I do not have to perform a same-sex wedding if I do not want to perform it. It's just that the state has to give them a license to marry. And next, the state needs a valid reason to exclude people from something fundamental like marriage. And she said, and then she asks, would allowing same-sex marriage announce that marriage is not all about children? And if marriage is for procreation, would that state have to ask all couples if they want kids? And same-sex couples can have a strong bond with adopted children. And more children being adopted into marital households, either gay or straight, sounds like a good thing. And she also says that the Constitution puts limits on democracy. For example, the state cannot be like, you can no longer say hateful things because hate speech is protected by the Constitution, even though some people wish it was not. But you know what? Free speech is free speech. We all have it. We all should have it. We shouldn't pick and choose, what people can say, because that leads to a slippery slope of tyranny. Next, she says that maybe we should break tradition. Maybe a tradition isn't always a good thing. And she said that loving is the same as Obergefell, and that it is a liberty case. She also says that the Hodges side is defining a constitutional right by who can exercise it. So he's basically saying that marriage is between a man and a woman, and marriage is the constitutional right between a man and a woman. So he is defining marriage as a constitutional right by who can and cannot exercise it. Next, Kagan asserts that if Hodges loses question 1, they also lose question 2. So basically, question 2 is only relevant if Obergefell loses question 1. So that is Kagan. Next, we have Scalia. Okay, let me make sure I'm starting on the right side. Okay. So, first Scalia mentions that interracial marriages were not always banned. And then the Netherlands in 2001 permitted same-sex marriage first. And he also said that the question is who decides if same-sex marriage should exist. Is it the states and the people, or is it the court? And many people oppose same-sex marriage, so maybe it shouldn't be the courts. And then he asks if a minister can decline to marry 2 men. And he said that state laws can make exceptions, and a constitutional right, and the Constitution cannot make exceptions. So basically a state can be like, we allow gay marriage, however, if a minister doesn't want to marry 2 people of the same sex, that minister doesn't have to. So that is what he is saying by how a state law can make exceptions. Next, in question 2, he says that does the state have to recognize a marriage performed in another country with conflicting laws? And he also says that the state says that we only have heterosexual marriage, and gay marriage decreases heterosexual marriage. And the existence of same-sex marriage erodes the feeling of society regarding heterosexual marriage. Now, this is one of my favorite parts of oral arguments. So, the guy on the Hodges side said that there is nothing in the Constitution that says states have to recognize documents out of state. And Scalia was like, ooh, I can't wait to, I'm so excited to quote a part of the Constitution that is actually relevant here. And he quotes the full faith and credit clause. To basically be like, dude, you stupid. Next we have Roberts. Let's see, who else? Yep. First he says that same-sex marriage is new to society. And he says that the previous definition will no longer be operable if gay people can get married. And legalizing gay marriage everywhere forces states to approve the relationship. And Lawrence just said that the state cannot intrude on personal relationships. And it is not necessary to get into sexual orientation to resolve this case. It's a straightforward question of sexual discrimination. So he basically says, if Mary wants to marry Todd and Rob wants to marry Todd, Mary is the only one that can marry Todd because Mary is a woman and Todd is a man. Well, and Rob can't marry Todd because Rob is a man and Todd is a man. So he says that it's a straightforward question of sexual discrimination. And then he said that recognizing out-of-state marriages will lead to allowing same-sex marriage in that state, and one state could set the policy for the nation. So basically, if California is the only state that performs same-sex marriages, then every gay couple can go to California, then go back to their state, and now their state has to recognize their marriage. So next, let's see. First, now we have Justice Sonia Sotomayor. She said that gay people have faced discrimination because of the definition of marriage, and ministers have never been forced to do gay weddings, even if there were anti-discrimination laws in that state. Next, no one is taking away the individual liberty in deciding the meaning of marriage. She says that marriage, everyone has their own definition of what marriage is to them. And marriage does not bind parents to their kids. I said this in the short version. She basically says that anyone can be a deadbeat, gay, straight, man, woman, male, female, whatever. Anyone can be a deadbeat. And marriage has nothing to do with that. And again, she says that everyone has their own vision of what marriage is. Next, she says that children being born out of wedlock has nothing to do with gay marriage. And she says that prisoners can't get married despite not being able to procreate, so even though same-sex couples can't procreate, then why can't they get married, you know? Next, she says that no state passed a law declaring same-sex marriage against public policy. And then she grills the guy on the full faith and credit clause. I'm so glad Scalia brought that up. It was so funny. And then the guy talks about how by states recognizing out-of-state marriages, they would have to change pronouns and terminology and stuff. And she said, we already do that for adoption. Is it really a big deal? And the guy's like, yeah, it's a big deal. And she was like, are we really arguing about this? And then is like, can a state reject an out-of-state birth certificate? I love Sotomayor. Next, we have Breyer and Ginsburg left. Let's start with Breyer. And congratulations, Breyer, on your retirement. Have a fun rest of your life. Next, he says that he mentions wait and see and legalize it at the state's pace. Next, he says that same-sex couples cannot participate in the liberties of marriage. Why is that? People the answer people give is that people have always done it, and that reasoning could be used with things like racial segregation back when, you know, everyone did it, and other stuff. And he says that the Hodges side can only give 2 reasons against same-sex marriage, and both involve tradition. Next, he says that some straight couples don't want to have kids, and gay couples can have kids if they want. And many gay couples want to have kids, and the 14th Amendment says you can't deprive a person of a basic liberty without due process of the law. And you can't use religious beliefs versus gay rights because of the whole Establishment Clause. And then he asks how would gay marriage weaken bonds with children, and how no state hates adoption. And nothing in any case says that marriage is only for opposite-sex couples. And for question 2, he asks, would any conflicting laws apply when it comes to straight couples? So that is Breyer. And by the way, if you're wondering why I am saying nothing about Thomas, that is because apparently in oral arguments, Thomas is almost always silent. So he doesn't ask a lot of questions, which I don't get it, but that's his thing, so oh well. Now, last but certainly not least, we have Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. First, she says that traditional marriage between men and women has changed over the times to give women more control over their lives. And by the way, part of that is because of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Fun fact. And she says that giving gay people the right to marry and the benefits of marriage does not take anything away from heterosexual couples. So heterosexual couples still get all of those things. The only thing that's changed is that gay couples can get those same things. And then she says that 70-year-olds are not having kids, so marriage should not just be about reproducing, but about emotional connections. And she says that we should not go back to traditional marriage and its definition, and the states treat outsiders the same as insiders. I believe she says that on question 2. And she said that question 2 assumes that the plaintiffs lose question 1. States can keep their bans but must recognize same-sex marriages performed out of state. And she says that the full faith and credit clause applies to judgment. And she also says that a divorce must be acknowledged everywhere but not at marriage. So that is it. Oh, next, notes. So for observations, I only have 3. First is conservative justices are bringing up ancient times. Justice Kennedy appears to change his positions when the sides change. And liberal justices tend to attack the conservative sides, and the conservative justices tend to attack the liberal side. And I have a headache, so I am going to do the opinions in a part 2 video.